So today, in MYOG Monday, we're going to make this stove use 3 different kind of fuels. So stick around to learn how to make the adapter. Welcome back, everybody. It's MYOG Monday once again. Now, before we proceed with this MYOG, I just want to verbally say, anytime you're messing with propane or isobutane or even butane or any other explosive or flammable gas, you need to take the appropriate safety precautions. Alright? If you don't feel confident in doing any of this, don't do it. If you know somebody that knows a lot more than you do, let them help you. Also, I have to say that if you do any of this, your safety is in your hands. I do not encourage anyone to do this. I'm putting this information out there as disaster preparedness. Like, let's say you have one of these stoves and you can't get butane for it, which brings me to a funny story. So I live in Michigan. I live in southeastern Michigan. I don't live too far from Ann Arbor. And lately, I can't buy any of these butane canisters locally. They have just dried up, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, because everywhere I went, they were always sold out. Well, one of the places I go is this Asian food market, and I asked the kid there, I'm like, what the heck is going on? You guys don't have any butane. I'm thinking it has to do with the supply chain being all messed up. And he goes, no, we get a shipment in, but he said there's this kid that comes in and buys the entire shipment. And I'm looking at him, and I'm like, who the heck is going to come here and buy 50 cans of butane? But apparently there is somebody that does that. Well, I did a little online searching and everything, and it turns out they use butane to make hash oil. And I live not too far from Ann Arbor, the home of the Hash Bash, the 420 lifestyle. It's a college town, and it's got quite a reputation. In fact, around here, we have a saying, it's called Ann Arbor Weird. And that kind of covers that whole 420 thing. I got nothing against people that are into that. I just want to throw that out there. But, holy smokes, I can't buy butane because of it. So, that's how I kind of went down the road we're going to go down now, and I figured out how to make an adapter where we can run isobutane or propane. So, with all the safety concerns, everything else out of the way, let's get started. This is all the adapters and different hardware we're going to need to make this happen. Now, there's going to be links for all of this in the description. And yeah, so if you want to do all 3 fuels, you're going to need everything here, and I'm going to show you how to put it together. If, let's say, you only want to do 1 fuel, then you'll just get the appropriate fittings that you want to do it. So we're going to start with isobutane, because that's going to be the easiest one. Now, Camping Moon, the same people that make the XD1 turbo stove, my new favorite canister, remote canister stove, makes this kit right here. And it's an extra fuel hose. It is a magnetic butane adapter, I'll let you get a little look there. And you also get this propane adapter. These 3 pieces come in a kit. And I would encourage anybody to buy the whole kit, get the whole thing, because everything's cheaper that way. Alright? So you would need this kit, and you would need this fuel adapter from Jeebel Camp. If you're just going to run isobutane in the Coleman stove. Now if you're going to be running propane, you're going to need this kit. You're going to need each of these fittings, adapters. Okay. You're going to need this hose with a adjustable pressure regulator, and it goes up to 30 pounds, 30 psi, and it's got a little, I like the fact that it's got a gauge. You can actually see how high it'll go. And you're going to need this fuel filter. Now before I get to build all of this and show you how this all works, let me explain a few things. These flexible hoses for propane, when they're manufactured, they use different oils in the manufacturing. So the hose is actually impregnated with oil. Now, when you're using regular propane appliances, depending on the appliance, it's not a big deal. However, the Mr. Buddy heaters have an issue with them plugging up with the oil. The oil will run out of this hose into the appliance and plug it up. So Mr. Heater came up with this filter. It traps the oil coming out of this hose. Well, I don't want to do the same thing to my Coleman stove right there, so it's just smart insurance to use a filter when you're using the propane setup. Now this adds expense to it, and these filters are stupidly expensive online. I've seen them between $26 and $30 for one. Well, guess what? If you go to your local hardware store, or Tractor Supply, or Family Farm and Home, any of those type stores, I got this for $10.99. So that's a third of the price that you're going to pay online. Unfortunately, I couldn't find this anywhere. I had to buy this online. I'm sure I got ripped off there. Same thing with these adapters. So, with all that said, let's get set up for isobutane. So we have our 3 primary pieces to make our adapter hose. We have this isobutane regulator hose configuration from Jeebel Camp. Okay. We have this extension hose, isobutane, and we have this adapter that goes from that this will hook to. Now this is a magnetic adapter. Our stove here does not have a magnetic catch in here for the fuel. It has the mechanical catch. So to get this to work, I took a bottle, trimmed it down to the right size to where when this is on here, just like this, that this will fit right in here. So you would fit this up just like a regular canister of fuel. You'd line everything up and you would press the oh, gotta turn that back to off. You would press that forward and that would lock it all together. Now ideally, using plastic for this ain't great because eventually this will melt and that could cause this to kick off. What would be ideal is with one of these fuel canisters run dry is to remove this, cut this off, to where this would fit and drill a hole in the side for the hose to come out. But I don't have an empty canister yet. I use this stove pretty infrequently. So I used a plastic bottle. So there we go. So the first step is make yourself this plastic bottle and make sure everything fits. Then we're going to take our hose, we're going to connect it while we're on the bottle cap. Just snug it up good. Okay, the other end of the hose we're going to hook to our Jeebel camp, but first we're going to run, we're going to run this hose through the bottle. I'm sorry, I'm off camera. I'm telling you, there's openings for a cameraman or a camera woman. I'm not joking. Let me redo that, because I am screwing it all up. Making a dog's breakfast of things, as my dad used to say. Okay, so you can see I kind of got a hole cut in the bottle there. We're just going to push that hose right through and out. Now we're going to connect it to this. Now the cool thing is, if you have a stove like my Coleman here that uses the magnetic hookup, well, heck, you'd be in business real easy. But since we're doing a hack here, this is what we got to do. Okay, so there's our hose. So now we're going to connect it to the Jeebel camp on the other end. Okay. Now we can connect this to our tank. But first we're going to put this in the oven. We're going to lock it. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to take our Isobutane and we're going to hook it up. Make sure that this valve is closed. It is closed. Okay, now we're going to hook it up. Now this is the easiest of the hacks. The propane gets more involved. Okay, there we are. We're hooked up. Now you can go ahead. We're going to open this valve all the way. There it is, open all the way. So now our gas line is going all the way from there, around, and into the stove. So when we turn this on, we got to give the gas a second or two to get over here before we turn the dial all the way to turn it on. Okay? So here we go. I'm taking my time, and there we go. Look at that. So there's our flame on high. Let's regulate it down. There we go, where it's barely on. And turn my overhead light off so you can see that better. And we can go all the way back up to high. We're running isobutane. Take that all the way down and shut it off. Now, when you are not using this stove, you should close this valve. You should disconnect this here. Never leave everything connected or open. Shut and disconnect. Alright? One of the biggest errors I see people doing is that leaving a tank connected long term to any of these outdoor stoves. It's a bad idea. Don't do it. Alright? That's how you get leaks. That's how you have problems. Okay. So that's burning isobutane. No big deal. So when we're done, how do we put this all away? Well, it's real simple. First thing we're going to do is we're going to close this valve all the way, because we want to bleed all the fuel out of the line. There, that's closed, and that died. and this is still open. So all the fuel's out of the line. Want to turn this to off. Want to disconnect this. And then you would go ahead, we're going to remove this from the tank. There we go. And that's how you run isobutane. And then you'd go ahead and disassemble this hose and put your connections and everything away. Now we're going to set it up for propane. Okay, so the bottle with the magnetic attachment and this hose from Camping Moon is exactly the same. We have these adapters, plus we're going to have this other adapter from Camping Moon, which is a standard adapter from propane to isobutane type connection, and our short hose with adjustable regulator. This is everything you need to adapt that stove to run on propane. So I'm going to show you how we assemble it. So this part of the assembly is already done. Second thing we need to do is we need to take this adapter. Now on this end, this is set up to go into a 20-pound propane bottle. That's the bottle that a lot of people use on barbecue grills and stuff like that. We want to take this adapter, which adapts this from the barbecue grill to a 1-pound bottle. That needs to go on here, and this is a left-hand thread. So we get that started on there. Let me grab a wrench, because you want to make sure that this is tight. Now, one thing I did not... Shoot, I need to pull that off and show you. Otherwise, you're not going to understand. In this adapter, down in here, there was a rubber washer in here. Now, I had to take that out because this bullnose adapter, this is called a soft nose adapter. With this soft nose adapter and that washer in here, I couldn't get it tight enough. I was having some leaking. So I had to remove that washer because this bullnose soft tip adapter is designed to go right against the metal. So, just a little FYI there. Okay, left-hand thread, put this on here, snug it up tight. Okay, that's step one. Step two, we take the other end of the hose here, and this is a, I think that's a 3/8 flare fitting, and we go ahead and we put this, which is the other end of the disposable type bottle fitting, and we put that on there, and I'm going to need 2 wrenches to tighten that down. So there we go, that's nice on there. Okay, nice and tight. That's on there. Okay. Next, we're going to take our filter and trust me, you're going to want to use the filter. If you don't, you're going to end up ruining your stove. We take our filter. Here's our filter. Here's this end. Goes in here. And we want to tighten this on. Okay. Now, this adapter is going to go on here. And then this finally goes to here. I know somebody's out there like going, oh my god, all those fittings and adapters. I know, it's crazy. The hoops we got to jump through to get this to work. But it's worth it. Okay, everything's tight. Alright. So let me untangle this a bit so we can see everything. So we have our propane regulator, adjustable, goes all the way around here to the filter, then goes to the adapter, that braided line down to the other adapter. That is our completed hose to run a 1 pound bottle of propane. The nice thing about this is if you had a 20 pound or 5 pound or bigger bottle, you don't have to have this adapter. You can run this right into there. Now the reason why we have to have a regulator is these bottles, the butane, what this stove is designed to run, have about an internal pressure of 32 psi. Same thing for the isobutane bottles. They have about an internal pressure of 32 psi. That's why if you ever had one of these old bottles and you punched a hole in it to show that it's used, they're not very thick. Now, propane, these bottles are thick. They're very thick because they have to be rated over 100 pounds of pressure, because sunlight, warmth can heat up the bottles, and when they get hotter, the pressure expands in them. So if you try to straight pipe propane right into the stove without this regulator, it's just going to kick it right off, because this regulator in here has a safety valve, and if it senses higher than 32 pounds, it kicks it right off. Let's start getting this set up. I know this looks pretty clunky and everything, but it is what it is. There we go. That's hooked up. Now let's get our 1 pound bottle over here. Let's hook that up. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure that this regulator is closed. And this regulator right on the top here has an arrow going this way that says on, and an arrow going that way which says off. And it's off. So, let me attach the bottle. Always want to do this sideways, but that's how you get sprayed with liquid propane. It's not fun. So you want to do it with the propane bottle standing up. Okay. We have the propane connected. Alright. I don't know how I'm going to get this all on camera, so give me a second here to rearrange. Mainly because this hose is so new that it wants to keep that curled up shape. Okay. So here is our setup. It looks kind of screwy, and you wouldn't try to operate it with this all in front and everything. I'd put this down on the floor. But I want you to see the gauge. In fact, let me readjust the camera. Okay, right now the gauge is at 0. If you open this fully, it'll go to 30, which is fine. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to open this fully. Okay, it went a little bit higher than 30. I'm going to back that off a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to push this to the side so you can see. I'm going to turn this on. And there we go. Open this some more. Okay, there it is, fully open. The gauge is reading 30. See if you can see that. Yep. And you can see our flame is nice and high. That's all the way open. Let me start closing it down. And we can get that way down. Turn off the light so you can see It's just a tiny, tiny flame, so you can do a simmer, or you can open it full wide. But we're running this off propane now. How cool is that? Alright. Let me turn this back on. So that is how you hack one of these stoves to run propane. Not impossible, not easy either, and it's a little expensive. But if you're serious about your disaster preps, you might want to look into this. You might want to do it. I always thought for years that I'd be able to get these butane canisters. Now I can't get them to save my life. So now I'm running on propane. And like I said, one of the added benefits of this is I can hook this stove now up to a big 20-pound bottle. I could probably run a stove like this on a 20-pound bottle for probably close to, I don't know, 4 months, cooking every meal, probably, maybe even longer. So that is how you hack it to run on propane. So I hope you learned something. Oh, wait a minute. Let me show you. Whoops. So when you're ready to shut this all down, I'm going to go ahead and close this, and you'll see the pressure on the gauge start to drop, because we want to bleed the line. We want all the fuel out of the line. So I'm going to go ahead and turn, there, it's all the way off, and it'll be a second or two, and then that will die down. And that's getting all the pressure out of the line. And there it goes, and it's dead. There you go. And then you would disconnect this, and you can go ahead and disconnect this line from this cylinder. You never want to leave everything hooked up once you're done cooking. Once you're done cooking, disconnect this and disconnect from the stove. And then you would have to reattach this next time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disconnect this since I'm done. There'll be a little spurt of gas, there always is. There we go. And I smell the gas, just a little spurt always comes out. You could leave this hose all together with the adapter, and then the next time you want to cook, you just hook the hose up. You'd line this all back up and lock it. Oops. So that's one nice safety feature. This won't let you lock if this gauge is open. You got to put it to off. And now you just got to make sure this is lined up. There we go. And it locks back. But I don't even recommend leaving that locked. When you're done, unlock it, bleed the line, disconnect your gas, and that's it. That's how we make an adapter hose so we can run propane on one of these stoves. Now granted, this is expensive. I know somebody in the comments is going to say, wait a minute, but there's other brands of these stoves out there that are already dual fuel and they run propane, and you know what, you're right, there are. But I paid less than $20 for the stove, brand new, many years ago. I've used it many times. I keep it clean. I keep it in its case. I love this stove. Now I've just added 2 different fuel types to it, so I can run 3 fuels. I don't know of anybody that makes one of these stoves that runs on 3 fuels. I know that they make them run on 2 fuels. But those stoves are very expensive, for one, compared to this. And for 2, if any part of this line like goes bad or gets a hole in it or something, I can replace the component I need to replace. I can rebuild the line. Now, they do make regulators like this that are preset. I think I saw a 20-pound one, and I even had a 1-pound one. I tried this with a 1-pound one, and I had just like an itty-bitty little flame here. It worked, but not very well. That's why I opted for this adjustable 30-pound one. Because I was like, man, I need a way to adjust it, and you can shut it off right here, which is cool. So that's it. That's how you turn a simple butane stove like this into a triple fuel stove. I hope you learned something. I hope you give me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you all later out in the woods.